This is Our First Responders, Episode 4. What's involved in being a volunteer firefighter?
If you go away on deployment, it's generally 12 hours on the fire ground, usually an hour each side for travel. So your day really starts at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and probably you might crawl into bed at 11 o'clock at night, depending on where you are, particularly if you go away on deployment, because you go to what's called a staging area or a base camp, depending on where your accommodation is, and depending on where the fire ground is. Like up the big fires up out of Glen Innes and Tenterfield that burnt for months. Some of the guys, just the geographical location of the fires, they had to stay at the nearest, town. They were travelling 3 hours to get to the fire ground. Like, this is in pretty isolated country. So they can be long days, really long days. Breaks, you just take what you can get pretty well. There's lots of theory about you should have this and should have that, but when you're fighting a fire, the fire doesn't slow down because it's morning tea time. So you generally get, I was at Glen Innes, I did 4 deployments to Glen Innes, stay in a big base camp on the local rugby oval. It's all fully catered, full caterers there, you have breakfast there. You walk out with a ration pack, which is like a snack pack, then you get a lunch pack, which is, I've got no complaints about the food. They feed you well, come back at night, you have a good cooked meal. Most of the camps are dry, which is probably a good thing. You're buggered, 1 beer you'd fall asleep. It just depends. But if my page was to go off here today, we've got to sort of be nearly self-sufficient for 12 to 18 hours. If it's just a one-off, like a first response, then once a fire starts to get into a big complex of fires, then all these staging camps and all that come into play, and you'll go away. A deployment's generally 5 days, 1 day travel, 3 days on the fire ground, 1 day home, or 7, 1-5-1, just depends. This year we've seen a huge increase in aerial movement of firefighters, just for the sheer scale of fires, and get them up there quick. We had private charter jets, and logistically it's an amazing thing what they do. I think at Grafton they were, it might have been Glen Innes, I think they were doing 1,000 meals a day, and so they get commercial caterers and stuff like that, but on the south coast this year, because the fires obviously moved from the north to the south, all those fires on the south coast just before Christmas and smashed that whole south coast. To their credit, they had a base camp at Narooma, but Shane Fitzsimmons, or the RFS, made a decision that these towns have been huge financial impasse because of the fires. So he said, do not use a base camp. You exhaust every motel, every pub room with the firefighters, or put some money back into the communities and use the base camp as an overflow. If we just can't get any more beds, then we'll use the base camp. But so that was good. Eat at the local clubs or pubs, whatever. It helped put money, once again, out of every negative, there's a positive.
So preparing new recruits for firefighting, we do minimum skills. So everyone has to do minimum skills before they get on the fire ground. That's all things like how to bowl out hose, how to connect it to the truck, turn the truck on, get the water flowing, what it feels like to be holding the firefighting hose. It's a bit stronger than your average garden hose. So operating radios. So there's a lot mapping. There's a lot that goes into training someone to be at that minimum level, to be safe, to be out on the fire ground. To train them for what we've seen, you really can't. I mean, we can always talk, and quite a lot of the banter around the fire station here will be referring back to events that have happened in the past and where people have found themselves in interesting situations. So people will pick up on that sort of stuff. But to actually train them for the intensity and the feelings, the emotions and that sort of stuff while you're out there, it's something you learn on the job. You pretty much do what you can using the training you've got to ensure you're as safe as you can be, and the rest you kind of fly by your pants and do what you can.